Japan Station is made possible in part by Patreon support. If you would like to make sure that I can keep bringing you more content like this, then head on over to japankyo.com/Patreon and sign up for as little as $1 a month.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Japan Station.
Welcome to Japan Station, a production of japankyo.com. This is the podcast where we teach you everything you should know about Japan, plus a few other things. I'm your host, content creator, founder of japankyo.com, and the anime linguist on YouTube, Tony R. Vega. So today we're talking about stuff you should know before you go to Japan. This is going to be an episode especially useful for anybody planning a trip to Japan or thinking of moving to Japan. That's because my guest today is Declan Somers, the CEO of Mobal. So Mobal, M-O-B-A-L, is a telecommunications company that provides SIM cards and Japanese phone numbers to travelers and new residents in Japan. They also have pocket Wi-Fi devices, so if you're planning a trip to Japan, you may want to check them out. Link down below. As some of you may remember, Mobal is one of the sponsors of my upcoming long-distance walk across the island of Kyushu from Iwakuni to Kagoshima, probably over 500 kilometers. I'm legally blind, so I completely rely on Google Maps to navigate. Well, not completely, but like 95% sometimes. So I need internet to navigate my way from point A to point B. If I don't have internet, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. And so Mobal is making it possible for me to do that. So because they came on as a sponsor, I've been talking to Declan quite a bit through email. I've had a meeting with him. I got to know him. I got to know his story. And so I wanted to have him on the show so that he could tell us about some of the tricky things of moving to Japan, especially nowadays, things that you should know before you go to Japan. And for example, why it may be good to get a Japanese phone number as soon as possible. So of course, we do talk about the services that Mobal provides. But this isn't a sponsored episode, but of course, like I said, they are a sponsor of the Kyushu Challenge. I had a great time talking to Declan, and I think he shared some great information. So regardless of whether you use Mobal for your internet needs in Japan, I think there's some good stuff to learn here. And if you're planning a trip to Japan, you need a Japanese phone number, you want that Mobal SIM card, use my affiliate link, mobile.com/TonyJapan. You get 10% off. Link down below. All right, enough of that. Let's get into the episode with Declan Somers, the CEO of Mobal. Then let's just go ahead and start with the typical question. So how did you end up in Japan initially?
I would nearly say accidentally, but I was studying Japanese in Ireland when I had my head first turned by Japan in many respects. And at the age of 19, which is over 30 years ago, I jumped on a plane from Ireland via Moscow to Tokyo to experience my first Japanese summer in I think it was 1993 maybe. Anyway, all I remember was really hot and everybody in Japan spoke Japanese, and that was the biggest takeaway I had when I came home. I remember thinking, if I'm going to study Japanese, I need to take this a little bit more seriously. They actually do speak Japanese in Japan, and it's not the stuff that's in the textbook that we were using for sure.
Yeah, that was my exact reaction after the first time I went. I've been studying Japanese for a couple of years now, and I can't speak. Like, I don't understand what's going on. And it was after that I got serious. Like, I realized, like, okay, if I actually want to speak, then I actually got to put in the extra effort.
Yeah, I remember. I think I was set up by one of the exchange students from Tokyo who I'd met before I flew. And it was my first ever Japanese person to meet. And he told me, remember to bring a small gift when you go to a homestay or stay with a family, which I was doing. And he made me remember or memorize the phrase, "Tsumaranai mono desu ga." This is a trifling item. This is a very small item. I remember rocking up to the door of the house, and the mum of the homestay family greeted me, and I went with my little bow, "Tsumaranai mono desu ga," and handed over my bottle of whiskey or whatever souvenir I had, and she burst into laughter. It was just archaic Japanese that I had memorized. So apparently that's not the done thing anymore. You just get on with it and here's your gift type of thing. But yeah, I remember thinking all the Japanese I had learned was a little bit, something wasn't right. It's not what they're using here.
I remember my Japanese teacher in college. She would make fun of that. She would say like, if somebody said "tsumaranai mono desu ka" to her, she would go "ja iranai," like, oh, then I don't want it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I was close to getting that reaction, but I think the fact that I'd said that as my first opening phrase in Japan
Yeah,
got the reaction that I didn't want. I wanted sort of like, oh, I had gotten past the first stage onto the next conversation. It didn't happen like that.
yeah. I mean, it's the difference between textbook Japanese and real Japanese, right? You got to start somewhere, but once you actually get there,
Yeah.
you realize, okay, people tend to be a little bit, they don't speak like robots. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
No, it's true, but I think in these days, a lot of people learning Japanese are using learning apps. I think apps are
Mhm.
more sort of funky and are more with it. They don't
Yeah.
teach Japanese that's sort of out of the box from the Showa period.
Yeah.
It's up
Yeah.
to date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. And that I think that's key that they can make updates, right? It's not just like a 15-year-old textbook that never changes.
Exactly, exactly. So we're now recommending on this podcast officially go for the apps, not the textbook, I think, at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah, probably yes. Although I can't recommend any single one because I don't use them anymore, but I've heard there's good
No,
ones out there. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm still on a day five streak of Latin, and that's my highest on Duolingo. So yeah, I don't recommend it entirely for Japanese, but hey,
Uh-huh.
give something a go, not
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
textbooks.
Yeah. That's the most important thing. Just start with something and you'll figure it out if you stick to it. Yeah. So then okay, so you go that time, but like when was it that you first decided to move there and stay there for an extended amount of time?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I was a student after my first visit, an exchange
Mhm.
student, and I did that for 2 years consecutively. And then I returned to Japan after graduating in Dublin to become a salaryman, to take up a job, a 9 to 5 job in a Japanese company, which was really stressful and a really bad idea for somebody like me. But I did it anyway.
Mhm.
And that was the late 1990s at that point was the first time I lived for a proper stint in Japan of several years. I ended up leaving the job after about a year and a half and leasing a pub, an Irish pub. Being an Irish national, it's kind of an occupational hazard. I did that for a year in downtown Tokyo,
Uh-huh.
and it was a strange sequence of events, but suffice to say that it led up to the 2002 Football World Cup. And I not volunteered, I got a job really as an interpreter for the Irish football team and the media group that attends the team and all that. And I ended up staying in Japan a total of 6 years and then hop, skipped, and jumped out of Japan at the end of that summer. I just had such a good time with all these invading army of Irish football fans that I decided to go home and reacquaint myself with Ireland again in the summer of 2002. So, yeah, that's a quick summary of the first time.
Mm-hmm. Um, Moving to Japan in the 90s and working at a Japanese company sounds like a bit of a culture shock.
This was the pre-internet, pre-smartphone days.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a culture shock in a great way. Japan was
Mhm.
very futuristic for me back in the 90s when I first arrived. I remember thinking, wow, there's nowhere like this. They played their music on mini discs and things
Yeah.
that don't exist anymore. And it just seemed like everybody was confident and aiming for a really bright future. And then, I've come back in 2023 with my family. That's my latest move to Japan. And it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. Japan's a little bit more, I would say that you can tell the demographic is a bit older. People are not as confident. Less people are interested in speaking to you in English, for example. In the past, people would tap you on the shoulder on your journey to work. Can I chat with you? Can I practice my English with you? That sort of gung ho part of Japanese society has kind of petered out a little bit, perhaps due to the lost decade and all of the various issues that Japan's society is dealing with right now.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm overblowing that. What do you think?
I mean, I wasn't in Japan in the 90s, but I remember reading about it in magazines and after the fact, both while I was in high school and after the fact. And my impression of that time compared to now is that there was still like, even though the bubble had popped, like there was still a lot more like interest in innovation, like the early cell
Mm.
phones, like you were saying with the mini disc, like these new forms of media coming out. Like there was still more of like excitement in a sense going on, right? And the fact that like, oh, Japan is going to become, we're coming back to the bubble. It's coming back. Like there was still that kind of like sense of hope. Whereas now, like Japan has kind of settled into what it is. The population is a bit older. A lot of the technology innovation has come from outside. So and the youth is still, they're still doing their fashion stuff and pop culture and that all that stuff is still there. But I do get the vibe that the sentiment is different. It's not like Japan is on the rise, rather like, okay, we're here now. What are we going to do in the next 20, 30 years? Because the population is, aging and we've got this looming problem coming on, blah, 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 like that kind of stuff. It is a different vibe, I think.
I think it's also better for a foreigner, a foreign resident to move to Japan now as opposed to let's say the other decades we were
Yeah.
referring to. Because I remember arriving first and the only jobs that were available for a foreigner were in Eikaiwa, the English teaching. Absolutely, that was it. There wasn't a career opportunity beyond English teaching. And the JET program had just begun, I think, around that time. So maybe you came on that, I think.
Yeah.
But nowadays, every single industry is hiring foreigners. There's a shortage of software engineers in Japan, caregivers. None of those opportunities existed when Japan was booming somehow. So there are positives from an outsider's perspective. Whether
Absolutely.
that's good for Japan in general is a different story.
I no, I completely agree with that. I think there is the idea that a foreigner can work here. Like I think that is both partially due to necessity, but also realizing like, okay, yeah, like we can hire, there's actually foreigners that speak Japanese. It's not such a novel thing anymore. Like we can actually have them in the company and we can communicate. We need their expertise. We're going to have them on, not because they're a foreigner and we want to, show off that we have a foreigner, but because they actually have a place in the company and we want them here. We want to expand outside of Japan. We need, somebody that's fluent in English, blah, blah. Like there is a place there. There's a need there. There's also more resources than ever before, even if you don't speak Japanese, between YouTube, the internet apps like we were talking about. Like it is easier than it ever was to live in Japan right now.
Definitely. If I go back to that year when the World Cup, the Football World Cup happened between Japan and Korea, that was 2002. And Japan saw, I think, the highest inbound in tourist numbers to Japan that year. It was over 5 million people. Prior to that, the only real experience with an influx of foreigners they had was probably going back to the Olympics in 1964. There was no history of people coming to Japan, so there was no way Japanese society could be open to foreign residents. They had no experience of it. It kind of happened at the same time as tourism grew. They let people in, people wanted to see Japan. Japanese people mingled with foreign people for possibly the first time in many of their lives. And yeah, people stayed, foreigners stayed, learned Japanese, showed that they could start companies. So I guess, the pioneers have helped pave the way for the new foreign resident today.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I've had, I'm sure more than one person on this show that has opened their own business in Japan. Like that is also probably easier than it's ever been, like because there's people who share their stories about it. You can listen to previous episodes. I've had bar owners, I've had cheesemakers.
Yes.
I just had an indigo farmer who's from England. This was so much more difficult back like in the 90s, for example, or if you go even further, it's even more difficult. But now like you have more and more people from outside Japan doing both things that like, opening up bars, but also doing traditional Japanese things. And, you can find these resources. How do you buy a house in Japan? How do you get an apartment? Like it's all there. You just watch the video and you figure it out and you use your app. As long as you have an internet connection, you can do this.
Well, talking about an internet connection, you didn't mention what I do, so allow me to do it. I actually work for a telecoms company called Mobal, and we provide, of course, a very important piece of the puzzle, which is a Japanese mobile phone number via our SIM and eSIM cards. And I think it's extraordinarily important for people listening, if they are planning to move to Japan, to know that you need a phone number from day one. Look, whether you buy it from Mobile or not is entirely a different conversation. But of course, we make it easy for people to do so. But having a phone number in Japan on day one is critical to just getting off the first rung of the ladder. And I moved in 2023. You had just, I think, finished your Tokaido walk around the same time. You
Hmm.
probably arrived in Nihonbashi, the
Yep.
start point for some, the end point for others. You
Yeah.
had finished your sort of epic walk of the Tokaido line. I was on a plane flying with my family to a hotel in northern Tokyo in at the Akabane area because I couldn't find a hotel even in October November period in Tokyo. 93% of the accommodations were booked out.
It's
So I
crazy.
had to go
Getting a hotel
further
room in
out.
Tokyo can be, oh my God. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And
it's
you
pretty
end up
crazy.
staying in
And
the
then
outskirts, and even hostels are like $80 or something like that. Like it's
mm,
gotten so crazy.
well, there are more options than ever before, and if
It is.
I
It is. Yeah.
were single,
Mhm.
I'd probably have gone for the share house option, which, to be
Mhm.
honest, share houses existed 30 years ago as well, but they were kind of dens of iniquity.
Mhm.
You kind of thought, I'm not staying there with the mosquitoes and the cockroaches, and I'm not referring to the tenants. There actually probably were cockroaches,
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
Definitely were in some of the earlier accommodations I stayed in.
Mhm.
But these days, share houses are swanky. They're plush.
Yeah.
Okay, they might be renovated buildings, but they're top notch,
Mhm.
and there is so much more choice. But I had a family, so
Of
I
course. Yeah.
couldn't move into a share house with
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
communal kitchen, or that would be my family pretty much gone on week one,
Hmm.
back
Hmm.
to Poland in their case.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So
But
you
I
so
was
you end up
mentioning
at
the phone
Akabane
number.
in the hotel. Yeah.
Sorry, go
Hmm.
ahead. Yeah.
No, you end up at Akabane at the hotel, right? And
I
then.
ended up in Akabani, the hotel, and
Mhm.
funny, I couldn't I wanted to book 14 days accommodation because I knew that you needed to register your actual permanent address after 14 days. That's the requirement. When you get a residence card in the airport, it doesn't have an address. You're obliged to register an address on your residence card within 14 days of arrival. So I decided to be clever. I booked 14 days hotel accommodation in the hope that I could rent an apartment with a fixed address and therefore have my permanent address registered on day 14.
Mhm.
I managed that. I managed to
Wow.
negotiate a rental apartment within my first 2 weeks, sign the lease, bring the lease to the ward office, and get that address on my residence card. But it was a sprint. It was a heck of an effort, and I don't think I would recommend everybody to do it. So if I had to roll back the clock today, I would have booked 3 weeks or 4 weeks in a hotel and
Mhm.
just done it all a little bit more easily and more
Yeah.
relaxed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the last time I moved to Japan was 2010, so things were a bit different. That was smartphones were around, but they weren't as, like they are now. But even back then, you did need a phone number for to get like a lot of basic things. Like if you didn't have a phone number, like you couldn't even sign up for some things. Maybe like some utilities and stuff like that. I can't remember the exact details. It's been a while, but if you don't have that phone, everything ends up taking a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It all kind of gets falls behind, and it can be frustrating because sometimes, like, even like setting up your internet, sometimes it can take a week or two, like to get that appointment, to have somebody come to your apartment and all that. Maybe things have sped up a little bit, but back in that 2010, like I really had to be pushy for them to come. I think within 3 days or something like that. I said, like, if you can't do it any faster, I'm going to another company. And the guy's like, oh, please wait.
Well, Tony, I'm supposed to be an expert in this field. I work for a SIM card company and I had a Japanese mobile phone number SIM card. I had a payment card from our company called Mobile Pay. I had everything ready to go. But what I didn't think about was I had an Apple Music subscription that was still valid. And it
Uh-huh.
took me 48 hours to cancel the darn
Oh
subscription.
my
And
god.
while that was live, while that was still going, I couldn't download a Japanese app. And I needed, on my first day in the new apartment, I needed to download an app that was only available on the Japanese App Store for home internet. And I was in a loop with Apple support overseas telling me, oh, we'll do that, within 2 weeks when the subscription ends. I'm like, please end it now. Take my money. Do whatever you can. And they ended it in 48 hours and took the full month, which I was absolutely happy with. But I wish I'd known, to change my phone region setting in advance just to
Yeah.
have that little job done because so many things require an app in Japan today, and most of those apps are only available on the local app store. So, a note of warning to the listenership: change your region setting to Japan as quickly as you can. Don't do what I did.
Yeah, yeah. And so then how would you recommend people, like, let's just say somebody's preparing to move, like, do you obviously having the phone number as soon as possible would be a good idea, I would assume, right?
Well,
Hmm.
in most cases, if you know you're coming to Japan, you have
Hmm.
advance notice, you can arrange to have the SIM or eSIM delivered to
Hmm.
your home address
Hmm.
overseas, assuming you have the relevant ID.
Hmm.
That way, you can have the SIM already prepared, activated to work on day one when you land. And I think, Tony, and this is not a plug, this is
Hmm.
more a question for you because you're about to embark on another sort of epic walk around Kyushu or
Hmm.
through Kyushu very soon.
Hmm.
That's what I hope you're planning to do because we're providing you with a phone number. I hope you'll
Yes.
have it all set up and ready to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got the SIM card. It's there. I will set it up before I head to well, I'm gonna be heading to Hiroshima and then from there I'm gonna start walking, but and I'm gonna have it set up. So once I'm there, my internet is ready. I have the phone number set to go and I can just put in Google Maps and start walking. So my the extra layer with me is, I'm legally blind. So putting in those tiny little SIM cards into the right place, like it's not easy for me. So doing it before I go to Japan. That's exactly what I wanted. And you guys sent it over. I have it. So I can do it. I can be ready to go.
Well, to be honest,
Mhm.
there's so many, I also arrive in Japan and I hand over my phone to a Japanese colleague to
Mhm.
register on Japanese apps because no matter how good I am at Japanese or think I am, it doesn't matter a damn. To try and register with the Japanese app, my personal information, my name in katakana, it's just so much work. I always get a colleague to help me. So I use every day when I'm living in Japan these days, I use the QR code payment apps.
Mhm.
It's just the thing Japanese use. It's a way of earning points, getting discounts on your coffee and your daily shopping, and they're really handy. And I use all of them, but I couldn't possibly have registered one myself. It just requires a little bit of effort. So I'm with you on that. We all need a bit of help.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially, oh my God, if it's your first time, like apps managing and all the kanji for like address and this and that, and it can be overwhelming that first time you have to do all that stuff. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I know we're not talking about banking.
Mhm.
That's probably a
Oh
step
God,
too far for
banking.
this particular
Oh my
podcast.
God.
But let me just tell you a little bit about a recent
Yes,
experience.
please
In
do. That's a
in
whole ordeal.
2023,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to open a bank account. Of course, I know the story. You have got to go to JP Post, the post office, and open your bank account. It's just easy. But
Yeah.
of course, I wanted to challenge the system and make sure that I was sure you couldn't open a bank account. So I went to all the challenger banks, the Rakuten banks of the
Mhm.
world, and I also went to Sony Bank because they're meant to be foreign friendly. And I got so far in the Sony Bank application, I thought I've made it. And I was refused because I had handwritten on the back of my health card, because they require a health insurance card. I'd handwritten the room number where I lived, 703. And when I write seven, and I've always done this
Oh
from
my
primary
God.
school, I
Mhm.
have a little bar going across the middle of the seven.
Right.
That made it illegible. In other words, nobody could understand what the hell I'd written. I'd written some Roman numeral or something crazy. And they were, no, can't do. Your bank account application has been refused. Start again. I was about to punch somebody. I actually got refused eventually for not being resident in Japan longer than 6 months. So I wasn't valid in the first place, but frustrating experience nonetheless. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just pointed out two things that I've heard before. One, there's some slight mistake with your middle name, something that you wrote, the letter that you use, or that's one thing that I've heard so many times. And then the other thing is, the unexpected thing, right? Like you're doing this whole thing, and then you realize like, oh, I needed some specific. Sometimes it's like the hankol, right? The inka, the
Sure.
stamp,
The stamp.
and you go,
Mm.
oh my God, I left it at home. Like now I can't finish this. Like you're at the bank or something, and now it's like, can I come back tomorrow or something? Like,
I've heard
uh,
Japan described as a nation of rule makers, inhabited by a nation of rule keepers, and I think it's a great summarization of the nation. We kind of get away, in Europe with shortcuts and sort of a wink and a nod. That doesn't exist in Japan, so you gotta just go through the process sometimes, and it can be painful.
yeah, yeah. It can be, and then the first few times, especially, you learn, and then
Yeah.
hopefully after
Hmm.
that, you know like what to do and what to expect, and kind of how things go.
Well, the thing is in Japan, everything works. So if you do it the right
Yeah.
way,
Yes.
you'll get the right outcome.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, so I'm curious when it comes to the phone number with mobile, because like, for example, in previous years when I've done my walks, I've had to, I don't live in Japan, so I need internet access. I need to figure out a way to do this. And there's eSIMs, there's SIM cards out there. but none of them offer like the phone number, right? And you guys have the phone number plan. Like how does that work for you guys? How did Mobile, achieve that? I assume the hurdle for that is much more difficult than simply providing, wireless internet.
There were harsher restrictions previously, and I'm
Hmm.
going back to the early 2000s, on providing a foreigner with a Japanese mobile phone number. But those restrictions were somehow, let's say, weakened slightly. But we're still, for example, we're still adhering to the regulations of the relevant Japanese ministry that require a foreign person to have an ID that also meets the conditions of a Japanese ID. In other words, if you change your address, that address must be updated within a few months, and if it's not updated within a certain few months, there's a legal obligation to do so, and there's a penalty if you don't. And all of the ID that we require for shipping internationally meets those tough criteria. Mobile offer a very simple method whereby anybody who arrives in Japan simply shows their passport in person, their identity is confirmed in person by a partner working with us, whether that's at Narita Airport or Haneda Airport or a location downtown in Tokyo or in Okinawa or in Hokkaido. And we have lots of locations like that. So we've made it really easy for people to pick up a SIM card with a Japanese mobile phone number.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in my case, I did it completely online, and I took a picture of my state ID. I live in Hawaii. I have a Hawaii ID, and I sent that, and in less than a week, I think I got the package with the SIM card inside. So, like you are able to get it before you even go.
Yeah, America is one of the most popular places for international delivery, and we say it's 2 to 5 business days. So that could take up to a week in some cases. But Hawaii, being close, to Japan, I'm sure you got it particularly fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, it was. I think it was probably like 3 days after I was approved. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it was pretty quick. Um,
Yay.
Yeah. So, I'm, very thankful that you guys are supporting me in this next walk the Kyushu challenge. So I really, really grateful for that. I literally, like, if I didn't have internet access, I couldn't do this because I can't see street signs. I can't see a physical map. I have to go by what Google Maps tells me. Sometimes it takes me the wrong way, but
That's not on us.
yeah, that's not on you. That's not on you.
Yeah,
Exactly. But I get there. Eventually, I get there.
sure. Sure, but Tony, you are also an inspiration because you don't meet too many people who walk Japan. We all know people who get the rail pass and
Yeah, yeah.
take the comfy route. But I live in Tokyo in the Itabashi ward, and
Mhm.
I was watching your video about almost getting arrested in Kyoto recently, and I don't want to experience that. But I live near one of the staging posts of the Nakasendo, the other route that you didn't take, the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
inland route,
Mhm.
and I live right beside Nakajuku.
Mhm. Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if you're familiar with the Nakajuku. It would have been the stage after Nihonbashi for
Mhm.
people going on the Nakasendo route. So
Okay.
I'm probably not going to walk it the way you did, but I'm certainly going to do it in parts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, there are some. When I haven't done the Nakasendo, but I'm sure there's some beautiful parts there. Regardless whether it was the Kyoto Hiroshima area or the Tokaido, there are some absolutely beautiful parts. I would recommend looking up the nice parts, doing those parts, and skipping all the boring parts.
I think everybody's with you on that.
Yeah,
So on the
yeah.
Tokaido route that you walked, what would be the most sort of picturesque or nicest walk? If you were to
Uh,
pick I know that's not fair, but
it,
give me
well,
some tips.
it's tricky, but like the two that come to mind immediately would be there is one area along the Shizuoka coast. It's when you're heading east, it's still quite a ways away from Hakone and all that, but it's right on the coast. And there's this there's what was it called? It's called like the English title, the English name of that area is like the way of like 1,000 pine trees or something like that, like Matsu
Hmm.
Senbon Matsu Bayashi, something like that. Um,
Okay.
and it's actually, I think to most people, it's a cycling road. I walked probably most of it. And it's right on the coast. It's super easy to walk because it's not like a car road. It's
Hmm.
typically a cycling road. On the right, it's just a beautiful ocean scenery on the left. Well, when you're walking east, right on the right, and then on the left side are these pine trees that we were talking about that are like
Mhm.
curved towards the coast, like the water, because the wind comes in right towards the
Yeah.
ocean. So they're all like curved over like a little canopy. And that was just absolutely beautiful. And I really enjoyed that day. It was super safe to walk. And lots of cyclists going by. Very nice. And then the other
I'm going
areas,
to cheat. I'm going to drive there and just tell you
do
what
it.
it's like.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Just go
And
check it
walk a
out. Walk
little
down it.
bit.
Yeah. Walk like
Yeah.
a kilometer, 2 kilometers. You get the picture after
Take a
that.
photo for Instagram.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then Hakone. Hakone was very nice too. Although some areas aren't really shouldn't be walked, but there's the kind of restored old Tokaido area with like kind of
Mhm.
cobblestones and roots and like climbing up the mountain.
In Hakone, they have the original cobblestone roads, like they have, for example,
Restored.
in Magome in Nakasen. Not restored, still.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Some areas are more like hiking-ish. Some areas are a little more cobblestone-ish. Some areas have modern stairs, but it's that same kind of. It's not like on a car road like asphalt. Like you're walking through kind of like a little
Can I
mountain
ask
trail.
just how unusual it is for somebody to walk the Tokaido route? Because I mean, it was something that people did in the 17th and 19th centuries. But did you meet other walkers? Is it like the Camino in Europe where you meet people doing the
No,
same thing?
no. I mean, maybe it's a little bit of a seasonal thing. Although I would think like people don't want to do it in the summer, they don't want to do it in the winter. I would. I mean, it seems like you want to avoid the weather, extreme weathers. But I didn't run
Hmm.
into anybody that had said they'd done it or was doing it. I did one day. I got lost in Shiga Prefecture, and one older gentleman helped me out, and we were walking together for maybe I don't know a few hundred meters, maybe half a kilometer, and we were just talking. And then he said, "Oh, one of my old classmates," and she was older, right? She did it one time, and she walked the whole thing, and she must have been in her 60s or something when she did that. So some people do it, but
Okay.
it's I don't think it's common.
Okay. Now, I did wonder. I mean, there's
Yeah,
only five routes really that go from that Kyoto to Tokyo. I think it's five. And you did one. You're about to do Kyushu.
yeah.
Have you ever lived in Japan for a reasonable time recently, or is the last time your jet experience?
So the last time was the jet experience, which was 2010 to 2013. And I
Okay.
mean, I go back every year, except for like the COVID when everything was, shut down. I've been back every
Hmm.
year, sometimes longer, sometimes, a week. But and when I'm walking, I'm usually there. I've been there like over a month. I end up there over a month. So I always go back. Yeah.
We've just attended the jet orientation events, by the way.
Oh
The
yeah.
intake it's
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
arrived in the August intake. It's just been
Mm-hmm.
and gone. They've gone to their various places, their placements,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them have gone with the mobile SIM or the eSIM, luckily enough. And we've
Mm-hmm.
been pushing like crazy for them to be interested in mobile pay, which is probably not something you're familiar with, but
Mm-hmm.
because it's so difficult to get a Japanese bank account in the opening months of your stay,
Right.
particularly the first 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
is legal now. We
Yeah.
offer a prepaid MasterCard that is a yen card, topped up with cash or topped up via your bank
Interesting.
if you're lucky enough to have one.
Mm-hmm.
And it opens up doors because this is something that I hadn't really factored in the move in 2023. A lot of Japanese apps only accept Japanese payment cards. Things like the like for example, what apps do I would I use every day? I would use my mobile Suica. You use Suica probably
I
topped up
use
from
I,
your
I
Hawaiian
use
card.
my Ikoka, which is the Kansai
Mm.
version. But I use the actual like card version that I've just had for years and years and years.
Okay, are you an iPhone user or an Android user?
Android.
Yeah, that's why you're using the card.
Yep.
You'd need an iPhone to use the app, but then to use the app, you need a Japanese payment card. You
Right.
talked about this earlier. It's the whole chicken and
I
egg
know,
thing that
right? It
Japan
is.
does
Yeah.
to you on a regular basis. It's just easier if you're Japanese,
Yeah.
because you have a Japanese card, you have a Japanese mobile phone number. This is why we recommend people just, take our advice, get the mobile phone number, get the payment card, do what we do because we make life easy for you.
Yeah.
But people are stubborn.
Yeah. 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 No, like I said, if you have those basics, the phone number, you have those things, then you can get everything set up, reasonably quickly. But if you don't, then everything starts to fall back 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and all that. It's like, no, but you need this thing before you get this thing. You need this thing before you get this thing. It's a whole
I'm going to
headache.
go back to a question you asked me earlier because
Yeah.
you asked me what
Mm-hmm.
when we were staying at the hotel in
Mm-hmm.
Nakabane as a family. At
Mm-hmm.
that time, it was a family room in a small one of those chain hotels. I think it was called Super Hotel. they have an unusual evening bar where you can drink as much as you like, which is not ideal if you have a family. So I didn't avail of that, but it was still unusual to have that as an add-on.
Hmm.
And we needed to sort of, as a family, think about food a lot, as in what we would eat. So I downloaded Uber Eats. I hadn't used Uber Eats in Europe prior. And because I was downloading the Japanese version and I was a new user, I got the first month free of Uber One. So I started downloading tons of apps and realizing there's whole newcomer benefits. I downloaded the
Oh,
Uniqlo app. I got
okay.
2,000 yen off on a coupon for downloading the app and registering my payment card. So there's loads of benefits in kind to being set up.
Hmm.
I had free food deliveries for the first month. I had Amazon Prime free for the first month. I had my GU. GU is the partner to Uniqlo.
Yep.
And I don't know if you I was going to say you do know this. You
Hmm.
walk a lot when you're in Japan,
Yeah.
even if you're not traversing Kyushu.
Hmm.
And I needed on my first couple of weeks to replace my sneakers. So I went to GU. I go there regularly. They have a kind of a very cheap basement bargain sneaker
Hmm.
section. And I just keep using those because they wear out pretty quickly. Sorry, I'm a fast fashion guy. Um, not really, but I
Yeah.
walk a lot, as everybody does when you're in Tokyo. So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you're in
yeah.
Japan, full stop. What am I saying? Yeah, what
Yeah,
do you do
absolutely.
for shoes? Do you shop in Japan? Because it's like
I
footwear in
do.
Japan go hand in hand. Or
Yeah.
sorry,
Oh,
foot and foot.
no, when I go, I pick up a sneaker or two, when I'm there. In terms of walking, like I get my walking shoes, here, and I'm ready to go like the next morning because I don't have time to, waste. So like I get to my
Mhm.
hotel, go to sleep, next morning I go and I start walking. So the shopping comes later.
Sure. No, you've got a mission. It's different. But
Yeah.
I was thinking back to what was the difference between the moving in 2023 and moving before.
Hmm.
And I think before, because I lived in Ireland as a student, we just didn't have socks and things that, that were, let's say, okay to show in public. I mean, the way in Japan you take off your shoes an awful lot. Well, we were
Oh
used
yeah,
to
yeah.
kind of wearing woolen socks that you could dry out beside an open fire in the pub. That kind of environment doesn't exist in Japan. So I
Right.
tend to, when I arrive in Japan, buy all my ankle socks and all the kind of
Gotcha.
all the lighter things that are not available necessarily here. Why am I
Hmm.
talking about that? Did you just distract me, or am I distracting
Well,
myself, Tony? I
we
can't
got on
tell.
shoes, and that leads naturally to socks. So
There you go. And on that topic, I do recommend people go to Family Mart. They have a new range of socks with the designer created. They have the stripe, the
oh,
Family Mart
uh-huh.
colors on the top. Yeah, it's a bit of
Nice.
a gimmick, but everybody's buying them these days.
Okay, I didn't know that. I'll have to get some socks for that.
On your souvenir list.
Yes, yes. But I mean, you raised the good point about the points. Like it used to be you had, I don't know, 10 point cards, 15 point cards in your wallet. Back when I was living there, it's like the Dai, like the supermarket, or,
Mhm.
then the five different department stores, and then the ABC Mart, is it? Yeah, ABC, the
Mart.
shoe place, right? The
Mhm.
shoe place. And
Yeah.
everybody has their own, actual physical card. But I'm sure that nowadays, most of those have an app version, and that's where you accumulate your points these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think the apps almost dictate where you shop to a great extent, but I
Mm-hmm.
definitely recommend people get familiar with the payment apps and the point apps.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit of a point jockey in the sense that I have a couple of apps going. If I go to Starbucks, I even make sure I get my Starbucks stars, which is basically using their app in Japan. If I drink coffee in Tully's, I'll also benefit from getting. They have a coffee jar with beans that fills up every time you purchase. It's like a game. Everything's like a game, but there's
Yep,
all
everything's
kinds of
gamified.
rewards built in. The other apps that I make great use of are the JRE Point app, which is an unusual one. It's a standalone point app that you just scan the barcode in any JR, Japan Railway Station shop,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll
Oh.
go to places like New Days, and they just give you points, and all those points are then added as credit to your mobile Suica or your mobile Passmo, your transport card. So it's like money for nothing. And I think a lot of foreign people don't know about it because it's a complicated system to get started on. But once you're on, I use Diborai as my QR code payment app.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Diborai? It's
No,
Docomo's
no.
free app.
Mm-hmm.
What it does is when I go for a coffee
Mm-hmm.
again, or I shop in 7-Eleven or wherever I go, every 100 yen earns me a point. And then that point is linked to my Amazon Japan account, and I get discounted shopping on Amazon Japan. So it's just this hugely complicated, network of points and discounts and rewards, but it's well worth getting involved and getting on the horse in terms of downloading them. But you'll need a Japanese payment card, and I recommend Mobile Pay. And
Hmm.
in some cases, you need a Japanese mobile phone number. Here we go, chicken and egg again.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, points are all over the place, and yeah, like when I go now, it doesn't really matter for me. Like, I don't really care too much. If anything, I don't care about the points so much as like the duty free kind of thing, because I'm going to come back to the U.S. But if you're going to be
Sure.
living there, this stuff does add up, right? Like if you're commuting every single day, you're getting rice balls at the convenience store or whatever, this stuff adds up. So you might as well get the points.
Now, if you're living in Japan, you might as well get your hands dirty straight away. Definitely
Hmm.
download all the apps, find out what works for you. I'm a big fan of Diburai, Rakuten Pay, and JRE Point. I use them
Yeah.
so regularly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you brought up the Jets earlier. Is there anything that you've noticed that they ask about a lot that we haven't brought up in our conversation today?
Well, in terms of jets, they don't ask us about much more than SIM cards. They've just
Okay.
arrived in Japan. Some of them are hungover. Good for them that they've had fun on the plane. It's
Yes.
great to see such youth and exuberance arriving in Japan in such numbers.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't go down that avenue. Of course, that's vilifying a lot of them. But they ask about coverage more often than not. And to be honest,
Gotcha.
in Japan, because they're going places where they just don't know if the phone systems are going to work. But in
Very good
Japan,
point.
there's
Yeah.
four main carriers, and they all have what they call 99% population coverage. Now, you probably know a little bit more about this than I do. 99% population coverage is a very clever way of saying we're more or less covering the nation. But of course, you go places where bears are walking,
Yeah, yeah.
where people don't necessarily live.
I
Now the
went
Jets aren't
somewhere that
teaching there.
yeah, I know I ended up in some areas where it's like literally boars and like trees. Like there's nothing.
Yeah, and if you don't get a phone signal there, it's not on the carriers because they do say population coverage. So I
Exactly.
think Japan is like it's you got to be realistic. Where people live, phones work. Where people don't live, I'm sorry, we can't guarantee anything. But mobile can't help if the carriers are not offering that.
Right.
That's
That's not
Japan.
on you. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
we are actually currently looking actually at a bit of how would I say a tourist offering that will potentially include Starlink in the mountains of Japan, but that's to be launched in early 2026. So that's one that's under wraps at the moment. I can't divulge too many details, Tony, I'm afraid.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
when you
No,
come
but
back
hey,
for
good to
your
know.
Hokkaido walk, you'll have that.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely want to do something in northern Japan, but with all the bear attacks lately, I'm like, okay, how the heck am I going to do this safely? Like,
The bears in Hokkaido are the ones to worry about, aren't they? The
yeah,
Kyushu bears are black bears. You're
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
good there.
yeah. That you don't hear about
Yeah.
them much in the news. Every once in a while, but the bear attacks right now are in Tohoku and Hokkaido. Yeah, primarily Hokkaido, I
Yes.
think, but sometimes Tohoku as well.
Tony, I mean, it's just an idea. We have foreign residents on our books. They're our customers. They're
Yeah.
helping us contribute to the charitable mission that Mobile has at its heart. We have a lot of people living in Hokkaido. If you ever wanted to have company, we could probably advertise in stages to have somebody walk along with you, and I'm sure they'd enjoy it, and you'd have somebody else to interview for your podcast as
Oh
you're
my
walking. So,
goodness.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And right now my plan is walk to the, southernmost point of Kyushu, right? Mainland, southernmost Japan. We'll see about Tohoku and all that. I would love to be able to say I've walked from the bottom of Japan to the northernmost, at least of Honshu. We'll see about Hokkaido.
Hmm.
But first, one thing at a time. One thing at a time.
One thing at a time. And may I mention, and thank you as
Yeah.
well, because I know it's probably not something we're allowed to talk about on the podcast, but there's a big digital nomad event taking place in
Mhm.
Fukuoka in Kyushu around the time that you're arriving there.
Yeah.
And all going well, you'll be part of the proceedings and there'll be some involvement. But yeah, Kyushu is a kind of a hot topic at the moment. It's amazing. You hear about Tokyo being obviously the capital and where all the
Mhm.
work is, but somehow Fukuoka is
Fukuoka.
kind of
Yeah.
it's growing in popularity and in terms of energy and it's kind of become the second foreign resident city if you like after Tokyo, maybe after Osaka as well. Maybe I'm
Mhm.
I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but Fukuoka has definitely taken over from other cities. It's the place to be.
It really has grown so much in the population in terms of tourism. It's often voted, one of the most livable cities. And it is. I've spent a lot of time in Fukuoka. My partner is originally from Fukuoka, so I've spent a good amount of time there. It is very easy to get around. The airport is
Mhm.
super convenient. And it is more affordable than the bigger cities.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've been there recently,
mhm,
and by the way, we have a eSIM pickup point in the airport that you mentioned. It's
mhm.
almost the city. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it feels like Asia, in a way that Tokyo doesn't. It's a metropolitan, it's got its own identity, but Fukuoka has that sort of chaotic madness that you just enjoy, walking
Mhm.
along the river and seeing all the ramen stalls and that. It's
Yeah.
it's energetic, it's good. I'd like to live there someday, I think. I really, really got a good vibe from Fukuoka.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to. I always enjoy being in Fukuoka, so I'm gonna be there a few days while hopefully I can go eat some of the food stalls. That's the big thing in the Fukuoka area, the nighttime food stalls. Go enjoy some of that after I'm done walking. So
So where are you done walking? Like, I mean, what is the end goal of the Kyushu Challenge? Where is the last stop?
so the official goal is Kagoshima Chuo Eki, so the primary station in Kagoshima City. However, if I have enough time, like 2 or 3 extra days of walking, I can make it to Cape Sata, which is the southernmost point on Kyushu. Um, if I don't have enough time, I will take a train and a ferry to Cape Sata and try to get there, even if I have to, skip that last like 50, 60 kilometers of walking. But I would love to be able to say that I walked those last 50, 60 kilometers. So I'm trying to time it so that I can
Okay,
make it to Cape Sata. But as
got
long
it.
as I
So
make
you're
it to
just
Kagoshima Chuo, I will say mission accomplished. If I can get that extra thing, then that's bragging rights.
So it's not really a spoiler alert yet.
Yeah,
But we know where you want to go. Okay. And is there
yeah.
anything at the very southern point of Kyushu? Is there anything there?
I think it's just like a lookout. Like there's really not
Yeah.
much. Yeah, yeah.
They'll have a stamp counter
Yeah,
or something.
there's probably like
So,
some sign or something. Yeah.
yeah,
Little maybe a
yeah.
gotcha or something.
Maybe a beer vending machine to say well done.
Yeah. Exactly. So we'll see. We'll see. But that's the idea. So it all depends on the schedule. And like I underestimated the distance. I thought it was going to be closer to 500, like under 500 kilometers. It seems like it's going to be over 500 kilometers. So it's going to be a little bit of a tight schedule, but just gotta do it. Just gotta give it a shot.
Are you walking on your own completely throughout the whole walk, or are you looking for company in parts and stages? Or
um,
should we shout out to people in Kyushu and say, come join Tony on this part,
well,
or is that a no-no?
I always welcome people that want to, walk usually very boring areas with me. Most of the walk is quite boring. I've done it in the past. People that I've met on X, they've said like, "Oh, I'll walk with you that day. I live in that area." It's like I've done
Hmm.
that. I've met up with people after I was done walking, so I would go back to like my hotel area, and they live in that area, so we'd go out to dinner.
Hmm.
So I always welcome people reaching out. Mail at japankyo.com if you happen to be in the Kyushu area, Yamaguchi even. I start
Repeat
walking
that email
September.
address again for the
Yeah, mail at
store.
japankyo.com. So MAIL
Japan
at
Kyo. I heard
mail.
Chewbacca. Japan Kyo. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I thought you changed your website. Mail at japankyo.com. Okay,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's if
yeah.
anybody wants to join you on the Kyushu
Yeah,
Challenge, which you
join
begin.
dinner, whatever, we can hang out. I
Mm.
that look, doing these walks for the most part is not fun.
I was going to say, conversation kind of shortens the journey, doesn't it?
It does. And it's nice to meet people that most of the people that I've met along the way, I would never meet up with them because I would never be in that area. Like I've been in some
Hmm.
rural areas in like Aichi and out of the city that I would never be in normally. And some person that I knew from X, she's like, actually, I live right by that station. Can we meet like right after? Like, yeah, that's where I'm finishing for the day. And so then we ended up going to like the supermarket that was right next door and like just like drinking like local vegetable smoothies like that they like make right there at the spot. And we just sat down in the supermarket and we talked for a while. And like I would have never met her in this random area if it wasn't for doing these crazy things. So it's always fun to meet people like that.
And the scheduled date is you haven't changed. It's September
September
28th.
29th
You arrive
start
in
dates. Yeah, I
29th.
arrive 28
Start.
and I depart 29, like start walking. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And you have the month of October then in Kyushu and
Yep.
maybe an extra few days if you get to the
Yep.
southern prominent
exactly. Yeah.
Prominent,
And then
yeah,
I'll be
southern points.
in Tokyo on like November probably 1st through 4th, and I may do a meetup in Tokyo as well. So well, I
Okay, I'll
plan
meet
to.
you
I plan
there.
to. Yeah. Oh well, if you'll be in Tokyo in
Yeah.
November,
I will
uh
be in Tokyo. I'm going back to Tokyo in a matter of weeks. So
oh
absolutely, I'm just hiding out from the summer heat, which is
oh yeah yeah
another
yeah
part of Japan which people don't necessarily always get, but it can get quite spicy in the summer months. It's over 40 degrees in Saitama today, I believe, and it's sticky.
yes
Well,
yeah
if you have a job in an air-conditioned office, you're fine. But if you're
yeah
out and about and doing meetings, it's tough. And if
it
you're
is it
working
is.
outdoors, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I will let you know the detail. I'll let everybody know the details on the podcast as well. But usually I do meetups in Sasazuka at this craft beer bar called Pintology, run by an American friend of mine. Very nice place, and we just go there, hang out, and everybody that wants to come out can come. And you don't have to pay to get in. You just get a something to drink, and that's it. So that's
You
what
have
I've done.
the beer place, so you're good. I'll see
Yeah,
you there for sure.
wonderful, wonderful. I look forward to seeing you. So
We'll
uh,
meet in person, not just over a podcast.
yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I look forward to that. So let everybody know, I guess, about mobile and just give them a quick
Yes,
just to sum things up in case anybody. Oh,
sure.
and I have an affiliate link.
Yes, you do. Yeah, please share that below are
Yeah.
we going on
So,
video or a
yeah, yeah,
podcast
no.
link? I'm
So
sure you will share it and people
yeah,
should
so
use it.
reminder if anybody wants to get the SIM card with the voice plan, the phone number, it's mobal.com/Tony Japan. You get a it's 10% discount for you. So and it's a little something for me that helps me, do what I do. So if you're looking for a phone number, that is an option for you. So but please let them know
And
you do offer other services and all that stuff. So just
yeah,
let
it's time for a party political broadcast, I think, as
yeah,
they say in
exactly. Yeah.
the. I just wanted to mention that mobile, of course, we're a company, we're a provider of SIMs, eSIMs, Wi-Fi, but we're a wholly owned trading subsidiary of a charity. So we donate all of our profits to charity. And in fact, my own involvement with the company started as a volunteer in a country called Malawi, where we donate the majority of those profits and we provide vital school meals to children in primary school and nursery schools. We also build schools and wells and we provide education for people throughout from early years right through to high school level. So what we're doing in Japan is really changing the world in the best possible way. I've seen it myself. I was so convinced by what I saw in Malawi that I joined the company through the back door. And today I'm the CEO. Quite a jump, you might say. But I think nobody else wanted to do it. Perhaps that was the reason. And yeah, as you say, we're one of the few providers that can give you a Japanese mobile phone number, which can really make your stay. If you're just visiting and you need to book accommodation or a restaurant, it can make your stay better. But if you're moving to Japan to live, it's a must. That's
Mhm.
work, study, or live. Look at mobile.com. Or use
Absolutely.
Tony's affiliate link, which he's previously mentioned. Sorry about that.
Yes,
Yeah, don't
yes.
steal the thunder from Tony.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you also do have pocket Wi-Fi devices, right? And of course the mobile pay and I don't know any other products that you guys offer?
Well, I'll just tell you about the Wi-Fi because I
Yeah.
quite like the Wi-Fi. And I think it's kind of an underrated product in the
Mhm.
sense that we don't rent our Wi-Fi. So once you have it, it's yours and you can use it in Japan. You can have up to 300 gigabytes a month. But then when you go back home to wherever you are, you can use it with a SIM card from your home country, or you can reactivate it on a future trip to Japan. So you can continue to use it no matter what. So for somebody like you, Tony, who's popping in and popping out of Japan on a regular basis,
Mhm.
it's kind of an ideal product. And you'll be using it, of course. So
Yes.
you're already convinced, and that's good.
Mhm.
But the mobile pay is the one you mentioned, the prepaid payment card. People probably don't know how difficult Japan is in terms of banking until they get here and they try to open a bank account.
Mhm.
No problem opening a Japan Post Office bank account, and I absolutely recommend that everybody does. I managed to do it in 2 hours. I opened a bank account. I got my payment card within 2 weeks, but that payment card was only a cash card. It only allowed me to withdraw my money. It's no good for online shopping or for paying at a shop. So mobile pay is like an alternative to a credit card. It gives you a really quick and easy and charitable option to make payments in Japanese yen. So it's mobilepay.com if anybody's interested. If you're moving to Japan, definitely take a look at that. So Tony, when are you next moving to Japan so we can sort you out with the mobile pay card and you can do a review?
I mean, I don't have plans yet, but I am never going to say that I'm never not going to move back. So,
There's
so
a lot of never going to say
I know,
never
I
in
know.
that sentence, but
will,
so
I
when?
will maybe at some point. I always keep the door open, and I am always happy to do so. But when the timing is right, and right now it's just not in the plans yet.
Sure, but we
Yeah,
did start the podcast by saying now is actually the easiest time in the last,
it's
at
true.
least
Yes.
since post-war Japan, to move to Japan. It's never been as easy. And
Yeah.
in terms of, you mentioned the akiya, the houses that are in the rural
Mm-hmm.
areas of Japan. Prices are good. Japan is not as expensive as people previously imagined. Actually, it used to be very
No,
expensive,
it's
let's be
not.
honest. It's improved on that front so much. Yes, wages haven't necessarily improved
Yeah.
in tandem with the prices, but hey, you can't have everything. It's really good place to live, and I would
Mm-hmm.
recommend it highly. Our family love it.
Mm-hmm.
I came with my wife, who's originally from this country here, Poland,
Mm-hmm.
and she wasn't particularly sold on the idea of Japan, particularly, beyond an initial 2 year stint. Now she's saying, when are we going back? So it can
Yeah.
work on you.
Absolutely.
So I'm
Yeah.
asking
And
you the same, Tony.
well,
When are you going back?
it's always under consideration, and I completely agree with you that it is very affordable. Yes, like you said, the wages, but the rent, daily expenses tend to be much, much, much more reasonable than
Mhm.
some of the daily cost ratio to what you earn kind of thing in the US, especially in some areas, can be, yeah, you earn more, but also things are like crazy expensive, like in Hawaii, for example. So yeah, no, if you can work remotely and you can live in Japan, like that's like the perfect situation. So I do think that it's a good time to go check out Japan, even if it's just to go visit and see if you like it or not. Of course, all the links are going to be down below in the show notes. If you want to check out anything, mobile related, affiliate link, etc., it's all down below. And you can go, figure it out for yourself. But it's all very simple. I did it too. It was very, very easy. So anyway, but thank you so much, Declan. It was wonderful talking to you, and thank you for sharing all the information with us.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me on the podcast. But also, I really look forward to having a beer with you in November when you're finished your Kyushu challenge. And I'm
Absolutely.
looking forward to all the stories.